Before we begin, subscribe if you're new, because here, we don't give you motivation, we give you awakening. Here we don't tell you to believe, we challenge you to see. And today's question is so dangerous, so deep, that if you truly understand it, your inner world may never remain the same again. Is God's deepest secret you? This is not poetry, this is not metaphor, this is the exact territory Ibn Arabi walked upon when he said that the human being is the mirror in which God sees himself, that the soul is not a random accident of consciousness, but the place where the infinite becomes aware of its own infinity. So the question is not shocking, the question is accurate, because the more the mystics entered the self, the more they realized the divine was not out there, it was right here, behind the eyes of the one who sees, beneath the breath, beneath the silence, beneath the observer that silently watches every thought. The universe is not the secret. The universe is the reflection, you're the secret, because the universe cannot know itself. But you can know the universe. Trees cannot contemplate existence, stars cannot reflect upon time, even galaxies do not know they are galaxies, but you can stand under the night sky and say, I am aware that there is a cosmos, so the capacity to know is deeper than the thing known. Ibn Arabi calls this Insan Al-Kamil, the perfect human, not perfect in behavior, not perfect in morality, but perfect in capacity to reflect the real, because the real cannot be contained, but it can be mirrored, and this body, this mind, this heart, is the mirror where the divine manifests itself in a concentrated form. If you truly understand this, your entire idea of spirituality will flip. You will stop searching for God as a distant object. You will stop begging the sky for answers, because you will realize that the sky is only the first layer. The real depth begins when the sky turns inward and becomes awareness, and this is the central secret. God hid his own depth inside the human, so the human could become the doorway back to him. This is why Ibn Arabi said, whoever knows himself knows his Lord, not because the human is God, but because the human is the mirror that reveals the face of the eternal. And when a human looks inside, deeply, silently, sincerely, without fear, without pretending, without performance, layers start dissolving, the false identity melts, the noise collapses, the ego loosens, and suddenly a new dimension opens, an inner horizon, a metaphysical realm, a silent space where the infinite is not a belief, but a presence. You don't see God like an object, you recognize God as the source of your very ability to witness. You realize you are never the identity, you are the awareness witnessing the identity, and in that moment, something irreversible happens. The seeker dissolves, the searched becomes the seeker, and the seeker becomes the revelation. That is the moment when a human finally understands why the greatest divine secret was never in galaxies, never in temples, never in scriptures, but in the one who was reading them. And maybe the real question was never, is God's deepest secret you? Maybe the real question is, are you brave enough to go inward and find out? When Ibn Arabi says the human is the mirror in which God sees himself, he is not making a poetic metaphor, he is declaring a metaphysical architecture that most people never even contemplate, because most humans spend their entire life looking outward at the universe and never once investigate the one who is doing the looking. And that is why he says the universe is not the secret, the universe is only the scenery, the secret is the one who is watching the scenery, because the universe cannot become aware of itself. A galaxy cannot say I exist, a star cannot reflect on its own nature, an atom doesn't wonder about meaning, a nebula does not ask who created me, but a human being can ask that question. A human being can be aware of awareness itself, and this capacity of self-remembering is the treasure. This is the mirror, and Ibn Arabi says God's names and attributes are reflected not in the external cosmos, but in the inner conscious self, because outside you only see physical manifestations. Mercy is not in a mountain, but mercy in your heart. Courage is not in a star, courage is in your soul. Beauty is not in a galaxy, beauty is in your perception of harmony. So, when he says the human is a mirror, he means the human is the only place where divine qualities are consciously witnessed, and that is why the human is the secret. because without the human, there is no witness to say this universe exists, or this universe is beautiful, or this universe has purpose, and without witnessing beauty is meaningless, without witnessing purpose is meaningless. Because meaning only exists when someone is there to recognize meaning, so the cosmos becomes a stage, and the human becomes the observer, and the divine becomes recognized through the observer, and that is why Ibn Arabi says the human is the locus of theophany tajalli, the place where divine truth becomes visible. When you close your eyes and ask, what is knowing, who is knowing, how am I aware? What is this thing called consciousness? You are not asking small questions, you are entering the core of metaphysics, because the real secret is that you don't have a soul, you are a soul experiencing a body, and your consciousness, the reflection surface like a clean polished mirror, and if that mirror is covered by ego, anger, greed, fear, comparison, your reflection gets distorted. But when the mirror is clean through inner work, through silence, through remembrance, through sincerity, the reflection becomes clearer, and the divine names begin to be recognized not as fantasy, not as imagination, but as lived inner recognition, and then the human realizes the ultimate paradox, that the treasure was not hidden in the sky, the treasure was hidden in the seeker, that the reality of God's secret was not in the universe outside, but in the depth of the witness inside, because the universe is an object, but you are the subject, and the subject is deeper than every object in existence, because an object cannot comprehend the subject, but the subject can comprehend every object. So, the universe is not the mystery, you are the mystery, and to know yourself is to step into that mystery directly, without middleman, without mythology, without imagination. This is the secret that Ibn Arabi points to when he says the human, the mirror in which God sees himself. Ibn Arabi says God cannot be limited by form, but he can be reflected through forms, and the highest form that can reflect the most complete spectrum of divine names is the human being, not because humans are physically superior, but that because the human has consciousness, the human has awareness of awareness itself, and that self-awareness is the throne of recognition and the throne of divine reflection. And this is where most people completely misunderstand spirituality. They try to find God in mountains, or stars, or clouds, or galaxies, but Ibn Arabi says all of that is projection. The outer world is only symbolic. The real place where the divine shines is your inner world, because the outer cosmos is an object. But the human is a subject, and subjects perceive objects, not the other way around. So the direction of depth is not outward, the direction of depth is inward, because everything outward is finite, everything outward is made of atoms and matter and time, but everything inward is not located in space, not located in atoms, not located in any physical coordinate system, and this is what modern science is accidentally discovering without realizing they are speaking Ibn Arabi's language. Neuroscience cannot locate a physical location of consciousness. Physics cannot locate the origin of the laws of mathematics or symmetry or logic, because these things are not inside matter, they are not inside neurons, they are reflected through matter. But they are not reducible to matter, and Ibn Arabi said this centuries ago. He said the human is the stage where the divine names become recognized, and each human has a different reflection of different names. You see, some reflect compassion intensely, some reflect wisdom, some reflect majesty, some reflect power, some reflect beauty, some reflect justice, and the more a person purifies the ego, the more divine names become visible through their being, because the ego is the dust on the mirror, and purification is not about becoming religiously strict, it is about emptying the mirror from self-idolatry. The person who thinks I am the doer is lost, but the person who realizes I am the place where the divine shines is free, and this is the meaning of fana annihilation. It is not disappearing physically, it is disappearing psychologically, it is dissolving the false separate self and becoming a clear transparent mirror where the divine names and qualities can be witnessed without distortion. And this is why prophets are not special because God chose them randomly. They were special because their mirror was polished to the highest clarity, so the names shine through them with maximum luminosity, and that same potential exists in every human being. Because Ibn Arabi did not believe in a closed elite spirituality, he believed that every human being is a locus of divine manifestation, The only difference is clarity of mirror. Some people are like dirty reflecting glass. They reflect almost nothing. Some partly clean, some are extremely luminous, and this means immortality is not about afterlife. Immortality is about reflecting something that is beyond time, while you are inside time. When you reflect a divine name, you touch a layer of the eternal while still standing inside the temporary, and that is why the true spiritual journey is not escaping the world. It is being able to reflect something that was never born and never dies while still walking through a world that is born and dies. So do not waste your life thinking the universe holds the great secret. The great secret is the one who is looking at the universe right now. Ibn Arabi says, you cannot discover the divine by stacking information. You can only discover the divine by subtracting the illusions that keep you from seeing what is already inside you, because the soul does not rise by adding more weight to itself. It rises when it becomes lighter, and ego and self-identity are the heaviest weights a human can carry. The more identity you build, the more you reinforce a fictional self. The more fictional self you build, the further you drift away from the reality of the one. And this is why the greatest knowledge is not learning something new. The greatest knowledge is unlearning everything false, and the falsehood is always the same one illusion, the illusion of separation. And once this illusion is set, it creates layers upon layers of misperception. A person who thinks they are separate will seek God outside. A person who thinks they are separate will seek meaning outside. A person who thinks they are separate will seek freedom outside. And so the drama of the human race becomes a pilgrimage outward, while the treasure is buried inward. People travel landscapes, but never travel consciousness. People study galaxies, but never study the observer of the galaxies. And this is the tragedy, because it is not the world that deceives you, it is your own mind that deceives you by distracting you outward. And this is why Ibn Arabi called the human a mirror, not because God needs reflection, but because the human has the unique mysterious capacity to witness the divine. Witnessing the divine, it is a double reflection, and that reflection is the jewel. It is the place where the secret unfolds, and this witnessing cannot happen without silence. The true silence is not the absence of noise, it is the absence of egoistic commentary, the absence of the inner narrator, the absence of the voice that keeps repeating, I like this, I want this, I own this, I am this. That silence, the cosmic, becomes visible like a candle flame showing the shape of a hidden room that was always there but unseen. And this is why the great masters said the greatest battle is inside you, because the battle is not between you and others, it is between your lower self and your highest capacity to reflect the real. And Ibn Arabi is precise. He says that when you stop trying to be something, you begin to reflect everything. When you stop trying to create your identity, you become the mirror where the divine identity appears. And this is what Man Araf Nafsa points to. Whoever knows themselves knows their Lord, not because you are literally God, but because your inner core is the portal through which the divine appears. And this is why human existence is not an accident and not a punishment, it is a responsibility, because existence is a trust. Your consciousness is a trust. Your capacity to witness beauty, meaning, intelligence, mercy, all of these are trusts placed inside you, not to be owned, but to be delivered back as reflection. If you think they belong to you, the mirror becomes clouded, the reflection becomes distorted, and life becomes noise. But when you realize they never belonged to you, that they were only passing through you like sunlight passing through glass, the mirror becomes clear again, and through this clarity, the world becomes not a prison, but a classroom, not a battlefield, but a revelation, not a separation, but a stage where the infinite plays through the finite. And this is not belief, this is direct inner experience. When illusion dissolves, the real stands. Without effort. Ibn Arabi says, the world you see outside is not the real world, it is only the projected translation of a deeper unseen world. The visible creation is the shadow, the invisible, the source, and the human stands exactly at the doorway between the two. That is why animals live in the world, but humans witness the world. Witnessing is different than living. Witnessing means you stand in a place where you become aware that you are experiencing the experience itself. And this is where the mystery opens, because science can measure objects, but it cannot measure the observer. Science can describe matter, but it cannot describe meaning, and this is why meaning is proof of the invisible. Without the invisible, the visible would have no interpretation, and this means if you want to understand what reality is, you must understand the interpreter, you must understand the witness, because the witness is the only place where knowledge becomes knowledge, otherwise reality is just raw data. This is why Ibn Arabi says the human is not simply a creature, the human is the translator of the real into symbol, the human is the divine dictionary, the place where the names of God become understandable, the place where the infinite becomes readable, the place where the formless becomes meaning, and this is why the inner world of the human is the most sacred territory in existence, not because the human is superior biologically, but because the human is the only locus where reality can be recognized, and this is why most people suffer, not because life is painful, but because life is unreadable to them. Their inner dictionary is disconnected, their inner resonance is blocked, their mirror is full of dust, and so they keep trying to change their circumstances, but the circumstance is not the problem is the interpreter, the problem is the inability to read what the moment is teaching. This is why suffering increases when you resist, but suffering transforms when you witness, because witnessing turns pain into wisdom, and this is why Ibn Arabi says every moment is a letter from God and every event is a word and the whole life is a sentence and the whole cosmos, the book, but only the awakened can read that book. The same event that breaks one man opens another, the same loss that destroys one heart awakens another. The difference is not the event, the difference is the inner interpreter, and interpretation is the power of the human, that is the divine dimension. Inside the human beings can take chaos and extract meaning, beings can take darkness and extract light, beings can take limitation and extract depth, and this is what proves that the secret is not in the world, the secret is in the reader of the world. If the reader is blind, reality will be meaningless. If the reader is awake, reality becomes revelation. This is the core of Ibn Arabi's metaphysics, that the human is not merely seeing creation, the human is participating in the meaning of creation. This means the world is not outside you in the way you think. The world is inside you, because it only becomes real in your consciousness, and your consciousness is the stage where the real expresses itself in meanings. Therefore you are the horizon, where the invisible and the visible meet. You are the line where the infinite touches the finite. You are the mirror where the one becomes many in appearance and becomes one again in recognition. Ibn Arabi says the most hidden secret is not hidden in galaxies, stars, or angels. The most hidden secret is hidden inside you, because you carry the most dangerous power in existence, the power of interpretation, the power of saying yes or no, the power of veiling or unveiling, the power of surrender or resistance, and the entire universe bends according to the inner posture you choose to take. Reality does not hit every soul the same way. The same event that collapses one heart becomes the birth of another. So the true battlefield is not the event, the true battlefield is the place inside you that responds to the event, and this is the realm where destiny is written, not outside, not in the sky, not in the stars, but inside the human, because the human is a mirror of the divine names, and whichever names you allow to pass through your being determines what world you live in inside your own consciousness. And this is why two people can live under the same sky and live into completely different universes, because the universe is not merely physical, the universe is interpreted reality, and your interpretation is not random. It is shaped by your inner purity, by your inner silence, by your inner honesty, by your courage to face the self with no excuses. And this is why Ibn Arabi says, the one who knows themselves knows their Lord, because once you break the illusion of being separate, you do not only see God, you begin to reflect God's qualities in how you respond, in how you speak, in how you forgive, in how you remain patient, in how you see meaning in pain, in how you see purpose inside chaos. And these reflections are not just spiritual poetry, they are literal shifts in the fabric of your consciousness, and your consciousness is the most powerful frequency in existence, because it is the interface where the infinite communicates with the finite. So, when you refine your inner stance, your reality shifts, your perception shifts, your experience shifts, because creation is not a fixed object, creation is a mirror that responds to the state of your heart. This is why divine wisdom does not force change on you from the outside, it invites change from within, because once the inside changes, The outside cannot remain the same. It must bend, it must reshape, it must reconfigure itself around your new level of awareness, and that is why the deeper you go, the quieter you become, not because you lost intensity, but because you realize that noise is for those who are searching, and silence is for those who have found, and in that silence, the greatest secret becomes visible, the secret that the real was never far, it was never outside, it was never in some distant heaven, it was breathing as you, seeing through you, listening through you, longing through, wanting to experience its own names through your heart's mirror. So the only remaining question is not, who is God? The question is, who are you, and what kind of mirror will you allow yourself to become?